Well, hello and welcome to a virtual field trip to an Ohio pig farm. I'm Jennifer and I work on staff with the Ohio Pork Council. And we are so excited to host you on this video chat and virtual farm tour. Our goal is to share where food comes from and help answer some of the common questions that you guys have about pigs and how they live and how they're cared for in farms. So before we begin, we would like to thank our sponsors for making this event possible. And they are the Ohio Soybean Council, Farm Credit, Mid-America, Cargill, and the National Pork Board. So thank you very much. We've got some introductions to make. I'd like to thank Dan Tolan for helping us with technology and support. And then we are so excited. We have 13 classes from all over Ohio and over 300 students joining us today. So I see some more are still filling in the room, but that is great. Thank you so much. Without further ado, shall we meet our featured guest, the farmer, Nathan Schrader.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. You know, there was a great question asked just a little bit ago. What would be a good name for a farmer? I think Farmer Nate's a pretty special name. So if you have any questions, just ask Farmer Nate and we'll get them answered for you.
Great. Well, Nate, why don't you tell us where you're at and what you've been doing today as a farmer?
So the name of the little town that I live in is Lipstick, Ohio, and we're in northwestern Ohio, where it's sunny out, but it's still cold. So what I get to do every day, when I wake up in the morning and get the kids ready for school, I'll come down to my barn, and this barn is called a nursery. And what that means, a nursery, is I'll get these baby pigs when they're 3 weeks old, and I'll raise them up for about 6-7 weeks, and then they'll move on to another barn where they get really big. The first thing I get to do when I come to my barn is when I first walk into the office is I take a shower first. Now, the reason we do that is to get all the dirt and all the germs off of us, because the last thing I want to do is bring any kind of dirt or germs into the barn that could make any of my pigs sick. So cleanliness is a very, very important part of what I do every day. So after I get done with my shower, I have a special set of clothes that I wear in the barn. These clothes never leave the barn. They're always in here. That way nothing can get on them from the outside. Once I get dressed, the next thing that I'll do is there's a really big computer that controls everything in this barn, from water to feed to temperature. And I will look at that computer just to make sure that there's no problems. And it'll tell me if there's any kind of problems with any of the fans or the feeders. And once I look at that and everything's okay, I will walk into the barn. In this barn, there's 4 rooms, and we have pens in each of these rooms that look just like that. And there's what the room looks like way down to the end. When I walk in here, some of the things that I look for is those big silver things right there. Those are feeders. And we'll make sure it's full of feed. When I first get these baby pigs, and these pigs have been here, I've had these for about 6 weeks now, so they're not very baby anymore. They're getting kind of big. But when I first get pigs in, this is what the feed looks like. It's little pellets of feed that they eat. And that helps them when they leave the mother barn and they leave mom and come to my barn. That helps them to get started eating on solid foods. Now, once they eat so much of this pelleted feed, we switch them to ground feed. Now, ground feed is corn and soybeans that we grow in our fields out here on the farm, and we grind it up into itty bitty little pieces. That's what that looks like. Now, a pig will eat the ground feed for a long time, and that helps them grow big and strong. These pigs right now, they probably weigh, these are about 40-pound pigs. When they first came in, they were about 13-pound pigs. So they grow really fast in 6 weeks. And when they would leave this barn, they would go to a finishing barn where they'll stay there for 4 months. And in 4 months' time, they'll be 280 pounds. So really, really big pigs. The floor is a plastic floor. So it's real comfortable and soft for them to lay down on. So they get all the feed they want. They get to take a nap all day long if they want, whenever they want. They got their buddies in the pen with them. They play back and forth, and they'll jump around and run around in circles and have a great time. If you can see behind that one pig, let me get a little closer. That little bowl right there, that's the drinking fountain. So when they're thirsty, they'll come up to that drinking fountain and they'll push a little button, and that fills that bowl up with water, and they can get a drink whenever they want. Now, one other very important thing that I look at when I come into each of these rooms is the ventilation, if it's too cold or too hot. And what we have, and it'll be hard to see, but if you see them little next to that shiny window right next to it, there's a fan on the wall. Well, each room has 5 fans on it. And the computer will control those fans to turn on and off if it's too hot or too cold. And it'll bring in fresh, clean air from the outside. So once we have the ventilation, make sure everything's just right on there. We want we want nice temperatures. We don't want it too hot or too cold. Because if it's too hot or too cold, the pigs just aren't happy. And we want to keep those pigs happy as we can so they can grow big and strong. Outside the building, we was talking about the feeders earlier. Outside the building, there's really big feed bins that hold a lot of feed. Yes.
Nathan, we have a picture of the outside of your barn, and Dan can share that.
Sure.
Sorry, but go ahead. Keep talking while he's pulling that up if you'd like.
There's a picture of me and my family, and there's a big tractor we have, and what's behind it is the manure tanker, and that's what we haul the fertilizer out of what the pigs produce, and we haul that onto our fields to help produce our crops, our corn and soybeans that we get to feed back to our animals. And that's our dog Jake right there. On the outside of the barn, you see those big silver things. So a big semi truck brings a lot of feed and fills those bins up. That way we always have food for the pigs inside. And these feeders, the computer will turn these feeders on inside the barn 7 times a day. That way the feeders are always full of food for the pigs. And as you can see, the pigs are running around. Sometimes they jump on each other, and they're not trying to hurt each other. They're just having fun. So when we first get these pigs, if you see them little round white things hanging there, those are heat lamps. So a very important part to do is when we get these baby pigs, you got to remember they're baby pigs. So we keep this room at 80 degrees, and we'll turn those heat lamps on and make an extra little warm spot in the pen for them. So that way, if there's a few pigs that want it a little bit warmer, they can go right underneath that light. And if there's a pig that doesn't quite want it that warm, they can go away from the light and they can lay down and relax. Our pigs come from, like I said, a mother barn, and that's where they're born. And when they get the 3 weeks old or they get big enough, they get to take a ride on a big trailer behind a big truck, and that's how they come to my barn. And we bring them in here, and we count every one of them just to make sure they all showed up, and we'll make sure everybody's healthy and happy, and we'll sort them out into these pens so they can stay with their buddies and be able to get to the food and the water all day long.
So we have a good question from Logan Hawking, Nathan. And it came in from chat, and it says, in our story, Pigs, we learned that pigs need a pond or water nearby. One of my students wants to know where the water is for the pigs to play in.
Our pigs don't have a big pond in the barn to play in. The only water that they got is their big drinking fountain over there. And that water comes from a well outside, and that well is 450 foot deep. It's a very deep hole that goes way down to the ground to get all the fresh, clean water for everybody to drink in here.
Most of us on the chat, probably like here in my office, we just turn on the water and it comes from like a city water system. But farmers have wells, so their water comes from right there on the farm. So that's why they take really good care of the environment, because if we do anything to mess up the environment on the farm, it messes up our water for our families and our pigs too, that comes from the well. So that's one good thing Nathan was sharing. And another interesting thing, so when pigs were outside rolling in water or mud, that's because pigs don't have very many sweat glands. So that's what they used to have to do to cool themselves off. So Nathan, do your pigs have a way that they can keep cool outside of that drinking fountain? Since they can't really play in it, they can just drink from it. Can they stay cool in the summer?
Sure. So in this barn, we have all the fans. When it's hot out, it'll turn all the fans on, and it'll get a really nice cool breeze across them. Now, when they go to the next barn, it's called a finishing barn. If it's in the summertime and they're real big and it's real hot, they have what's called misters, and it's kind of like sprinklers that they'll turn on that'll drop little bits of water on them just to help cool them down.
Great. That was a great question. Do you have anything else, Nathan, before we go to some more questions?
I'm ready for some questions.
Great. We appreciate the question in chat. Cornerstone has asked you know what? Here's what we're going to do first thing. So a show on your fingers. Yeah, everybody, all the students, get your fingers ready. Get your hands up. How many weeks old do you think these pigs are? Let's see on your 10, 3, 1. What the answer will be 1 through 10. Let's go through the students and see how many weeks old we think these pigs are. I see a 6, a couple 6s, okay. I see some 5s, I see some 10s. I see a 6. I see a 7, a 6. All right, I see some 6s. So Nathan, we got some more answers. Good. You guys are doing a great job guessing. You've talked about a couple times how many weeks those pigs have been in your barn. Is there a difference? Tell us again how old the pigs are and then how many weeks they've been in your barn.
Sure. So when the baby pigs show up to my barn, they're already 3 weeks old. And I have had these pigs in here for 4 weeks. So whoever said 7 weeks wins today. I'm sure your teacher will give you a good prize. They have been in this barn for 7 weeks.
Raise your hand if you guessed 7. Good job. Great work. All right, good activity. Now let's get to some of the questions that we have already submitted from Cornerstone Academy. And number 1, where do you get the food for the pigs?
So our food comes from our fields. We grow the corn and we grow the beans. And in the springtime, we'll plant the corn and the beans. And in the fall time, we'll harvest them. And once they're harvested, they get stored in those big silver things they're really big silver things that looks like what was on the outside of the building on the picture before. And then when we're ready to grind feed, we'll take some feed to the corn and the soybeans out, and we'll grind them up into itty bitty little pieces and bring them to the barns so the pigs can eat.
So when you're talking about raising beans, we might often call those soybeans. So if people are out driving in the country, and let's say it's late summer, corn is going to be higher than an adult's head. So corn would be over my head, and then soybeans would be about waist high. And they'll be green all through the summer, and then they'll both start to turn brown late summer. So that's feed for animals. Sometimes there's wheat, and it turns brown around the 4th of July and is harvested. And there can be a little bit of wheat used, but the diets are mostly corn and soybeans. So great. This is a good question. How does a doctor check on a pig? What do they do?
So when a doctor comes out to a barn or a veterinarian comes out to the barn, we'll go walk through the barn and we'll look at every single pig. And if one of the pigs doesn't look real happy or they're not running around or they just, you know how you feel when you don't feel good. And it's kind of the same way in the pigs. And you can sure tell if they're not feeling good. So what we'll do is we'll pick that pig up and we'll put him in a separate pen. So all of his buddies will leave him alone. That way it gives him a chance to get better. And then that veterinarian or that doctor will keep an eye on him for a while just to make sure he gets better.
Great. How long do pigs sleep?
It sure seems like they sleep a lot. I think on average it's like 8 or 9 hours they sleep. But they get a chance to eat a big meal all day long and drink whatever they want, and they'll just lay down and just take a nice nap. So about 8, 9 hours, the pig will sleep.
I have a book all about pigs, and it says that the mother pigs sleep for 20 hours a day out of 24. They lay down or are sleeping for 20 hours a day. When the pigs are younger, they're getting up eating a lot more than, like, as Nathan said. So these pigs are a little bit older, so they'll eat a lot, but they'll still sleep more at night. So great. We've got a question in the chat. And then if teachers want to help get questions ready from students, we can take some questions live on air. But if the teachers want to work with students to help have one come up to the camera at a time and say their question loudly and clearly, that would be great. So the next question is from Oakmont. It says, we saw a video that said some pigs are omnivores. What kind of meat do they eat? That's one. And then, do you train your pigs to do tricks?
Our pigs all eat corn and soybeans in their feed. They don't eat any meat. Probably the best trick that I've taught our pigs is they all smile at me every morning when I come in.
That's a good one. So pigs outside wild animals that weren't fed regularly, they might eat whatever, right? Because that's interesting what the video would say. But
if they're grown, if they're wild outside, they'll eat anything they can get their hands on.
The next question from St. Patrick's, how many pigs are in your barn and how many pigs are in each pen?
So each pen will normally have 24 pigs. And this barn has a lot of rooms and a lot of pens, and it will hold 5,000 pigs in this barn. And that's a lot of smiling faces every morning. And it takes a lot of time to train them to do that.
So do you work by yourself or do you work with anybody else?
That's a great question. So our hog farm, we have myself, my brother Kyle, and a friend Luke, that we all work together to take care of all these pigs. That way, when I have something to do with my kids at home, or if my wife wants to go somewhere, we have somebody always at the farm to come check at these pigs, because we can't every day. We always have to be around. That way, if something's just not quite right or we have to do something, we can be down here real fast to make sure all the pigs are real healthy and happy.
So you said every day. I've heard a lot of people go in their barn twice a day. Do you guys do that?
Sure, we're in there twice a day, every day. Now, when we first get the baby pigs in, them first couple of weeks, we're in here 3 times a day. So you got to remember, every time I come down to my barn, I take a shower, and I also take a shower when I leave. So when they're real little baby pigs, that's 6 showers a day I get to take down at this barn.
Great. And our last question that we'll take before we start rotating through the classrooms live. So Cornerstone Academy, you guys will be up first if you have a question live, but we've got one more from email ahead of time. How many teeth do pigs have?
That's a really good question. So when they're baby pigs or they're young pigs, they have 28 teeth. When they get really full grown, and they lose all their baby teeth, they can have up to 44 teeth in their mouth.
Great. All right, let's go to Cornerstone. You'll be first, and then Miller's class, you'll be second.
Right here for the camera. Okay, go ahead, ask.
Do you keep any of the pigs as a pet?
No, we don't keep any of these pigs as a pet. I get to see these pigs every day, so they are kind of like pets, but we do not keep one in our house.
That's a
great question. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Miller's class next, and then Ms. Ruskop at Dennis Elementary will be up after that. Can you say that again, Bud? We couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, do you mind typing it in? Sorry about that. Or maybe there's a mute button hit.
Press now.
There you go.
Now say it.
How much food does a pig eat a day?
How much
Food do they eat a day?
So Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's about a pound of food a day, isn't it? When they're big.
So they would eat 2 pounds for every pound they gain when they're older. So they would eat, like market pigs would eat about 4 pounds a day.
So 4 pounds, that's a lot of
But
food a day.
Your pigs at that age are probably not eating 4 pounds, right?
No, these pigs are, our pigs are about 40 pounds right now.
So that's a good question. It depends on how old the pigs are and how big the pigs are. Because bigger pigs can eat more, right? Because their bellies are bigger. Good one. All right. How about, was that Ms. Miller, Ms. Ruskop, and then Ms. Reese?
I got 1, 2, 3.
Yes, sir.
Do pigs ever go outside or do they always stay in the barn?
Good question.
So that is a good question. So when they're outside, the only time they're outside is when they come from the mother barn to here when they're on a big truck ride. And then when they leave here to go to the finishing barns or the really big pig barns, that's their trips outside. Otherwise, they stay inside here so we can keep them warm when it's cold outside and we can keep them cool when it's hot outside. And that way we can always keep feed in front of them and water in front of them so when they get thirsty. That's why we keep them inside all the time.
Another thing that's interesting about pigs, Nathan, do you mind stepping in the pen and letting us see what they do to your boots?
Sure.
Pigs have really strong snouts. Even though these pigs aren't very old, you will see that they're gonna quickly probably come up and start chewing on Nathan's boots. They're running around because he's in the pen and that's different right now. But
give them a little bit of time and they'll come over.
Pigs outside will take their strong snouts and then they have really pointy feet. So when we let them out on grass, it doesn't stay grass for very long because their pointy feet will sort of chop that up and then their snouts, they'll root it up. And then if it rains, you get mud fairly quickly. So that's another benefit of, there's some things you can do, but that's one of the reasons that pigs live in barns. You have a very active group of pigs right there.
Yeah, they are. They usually come up right away and they'll want to play with your boot and want to bite you and they're not trying to hurt you at all. They're just having fun, but boy, sometimes it does hurt a little bit.
How about Ms. Reese's class? Let's go there for a question, and Logan Hawking will be next.
Okay. I can't. Okay, come up here and say your question. Bend down so they can see your face.
Do they ever come out in the winter?
No, they'll never come out in the winter. They'll stay inside the room here where it's real nice and warm for them.
Did you guys put coats on today? Give me so all the students, give me a thumbs up if you wore a coat today. Anybody? So pigs can't put a coat on. So when they go outside, they have to eat a lot more just to stay warm because their body has to use that energy to stay warm. So the same pig that's outside today would have to eat more just to maintain its weight. Where Nathan has heaters going in that barn, so those pigs, anything they eat, they're already comfortable. They can take all of that energy and grow. So those are some of the ways that pigs can grow faster naturally. Great questions though. How about Logan Hawking, St. Patrick, and then Oakmont? And then rotate right back through in the same order.
How do the pigs learn to adapt to their ecosystem since they have been in a basically captivity their entire life?
So the question is, how do pigs learn to adapt to the ecosystem and being indoors? Is
Sure.
that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good question.
So there's a really good question. So when we get the pigs in here, they're smart animals. So they learn really, really fast of where to go to get the feed and where to go to get the water. And they'll get friends with all their buddies in their pen. And they'll be used to the barn here just within a few hours. They'll know real quick where to go to get the food and water.
So I've grown up on a farm that had the mother pigs and the baby pigs. And I will say that it's raising pigs is there's some similarities to raising kids. You have to do all that you can to set them up for success. If you have a small pen and there's a mother pig and you keep the babies right next to her, it's much easier for them to find the milk that they need and to find, whatever. And if you keep them under a heat lamp, they'll stay warm. Where when they have more space to roam, they don't have the ability to make those choices. And a pig in the winter, if they don't stay under the heat, it's not always good. So we're creating an ecosystem where the pigs can thrive to their best ability. That's the goal. St. Patrick and then Oakmont.
Oh, they're starting to bite on my toes now.
How old can a pig get up to?
So when we like I said, when we get our pigs, they're 3 weeks old. We'll keep them in here 6 to 7 weeks, and then they'll go to the big pig barn and they'll stay there for another 4 months. So we'll keep them for about 6 months, and they'll be almost 280 to 300 pounds. They'll be. So they grow really fast and strong because you got good quality food right next to them, and they can eat whenever they want. So in about 6 months, they're really big pigs.
Great. How about Oakmont?
How do they get their water out?
Well, I tell you what, that's a great question. I'll go right down there and I'll show you. So when they come in here, see this little button right here? They'll push that button. And do you see it starting to fill up with water now? So when that's full, see there, we got her full now. So when that's full of water, they'll come and drink that. So all they do is take their little nose and they go in there and push that button, and then they get water.
Very good. Do you have anything to add, Nathan, before we go back and start again with Cornerstone Academy?
No, these have been some really good questions.
Yeah, you guys are all doing great. We'll go through all the classes once and then we'll wrap up. So Cornerstone, please.
Right, stand in front.
Do the kids ever play with the pigs?
Well, sure. With my son, he used to be real little at one time too, but he's 9 years old now. But he'll come down here and help me do chores, and he'll help me go through to make sure all the feeders are full and the waters are good. And sometimes he'll even sit down in the pens and he'll play with the baby pigs. And the baby pigs really like that. It's fun to play with people.
How about great? Ms. Miller's class at Dennis Elementary. And then Ms. Ruscant Kopp would be next. We can't hear you, sorry. I think it's a computer setting. You'll have to turn the,
No, it's not on mute.
there we go.
There it goes. You have to talk in here.
What species of pig do you have?
Did you
So there's
hear
a
her?
whole bunch of different species of pigs. There's a borak. There's a lot that come together to make this pig to grow strong and to grow healthy.
so there's breeds of pigs, and you said Duroc. Do you want to list some of the other breeds?
I don't have that right in front of me, and I can't quite remember.
That's okay. So Duroc, Hampshire, there's different like Yorkshire, Berkshire. So these would landrace, these are crossbred animals. So there's multiple breeds, genetic lines from multiple breeds. The landrace have longer, floppier ears. So there's some landrace in these. There's probably some Yorkshire. But each of the breeds have some different things that they're characteristics that they're well known for. And when you mix multiple breeds, you get some of the best things that each of the breeds have to offer. So you guys have great questions. Ms. Ruskop from Dennis Elementary, and then Ms. Reese, please.
Where do they go to the bathroom?
Good one.
That's a good question. So what happens is if you look at the floor, there's little holes in there. And underneath this building, there's a big basement. And that's where they go to the bathroom to. And then we'll take that fertilizer and we'll spread it out on our fields every summer.
And then that has nutrients in it, like Nate said, so it makes fertilizer, and the corn and beans use those nutrients to produce crops, and then the crops feed the animals. So that's pretty neat. Ms. Reese.
And down.
How many more teeth do baby pigs have than mothers?
Did you hear?
What was the question, Jennifer?
How many more teeth do baby pigs have than mothers?
So baby pigs, when they're young, they have 28 teeth. But a mom pig, she's real old, so she can have up to 44 teeth. So the mom pig's got a lot more teeth than the littler ones.
Great. Logan Hawking, St. Patrick, and Oakmont.
How fast can a pig run?
That's a good question. I don't know how fast they can run, but they can run really fast if you got to try to catch one if he gets out of his pen for somehow. The baby pigs, they're really fast to try to catch.
I just Googled it, and Google says about 11 miles per hour.
That's fast. I can't run 11 miles per hour, kids.
St. Patrick.
Are all the pigs in the barn pink?
Yes, they're all pink, except for maybe just a couple here and there. They'll have some little black stripes on it, and that all goes back to who their mommy and their daddy was. So different varieties of pigs. You can have the pink pigs, or you can have ones that have some colors on them, like the little black and white stripes on them.
Great. All right, Oakmont, one more question.
How many girl pigs and boy pigs do you have? What?
That's a good question. There's a whole bunch of each. They're about half and half in this barn of girl pigs, and there's about half of them are boy pigs.
This has been great. You guys have had lots of great questions, and we want to thank all of you for your time. Thanks for paying attention and doing a great job. Is there anybody else that we should thank for their time? Should we thank the farmer? Should we give him a big round of applause, everybody? we really appreciate everybody joining. And again, we want to thank you for your time. Thank you for joining a virtual field trip to an Ohio pig farm. If you go to the Ohio Pork channel on YouTube, there's a real fun video. It's a song talking about where your pork comes from. So if you don't watch that, that might be a great one to watch. But then, Nathan, why don't you wave us out? Say goodbye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Say bye.
Bye.